So, informative first and a chance to so 1 minute for questions, and again, you just
It's like double jeopardy.
Oh, that's right. So well, if he is not able to be here, we have the two candidates, and I'm gonna make that explanation. How you're all facing the same questions, but ultimately you have to choose from two different buckets to answer that ballot. So, go ahead and if you have a question, go for
Yeah. We'll chat.
Got these two. Why is that working? They need to, they all need to be turned on. Thank you.
Okay.
We shall see.
Hello? Oh, you can hear me. Good. You guys need to share these mics, so the three of you will share that, and the other three will share that one. You do need to, just so you know, you need to speak this closely, not this closely, this closely, a little closer than you might want to. Okay. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? Yes, great. Okay. It's Elizabeth McNamara. I'm Elizabeth McNamara from East Greenwich News, and welcome to the 2024 School Committee Candidates Forum. We are hosting this in conjunction with the East Greenwich Chamber of Commerce. Steve Lombardi is here somewhere. Thank you, Steve. They've been a great partner for us. We've been doing this for many election cycles now. And we both believe, our organizations believe this is a great public service. We also are grateful to the East Greenwich Rotary Club. Again, they are partnering with us as a sponsor, and they're helping to pay for our live stream. And our live stream is with Jesse Tulpa Media right back there. He is an East Greenwich resident and has helped us on our podcast, and we're really grateful to have Jesse here. I will say we didn't get enough money to cover the cost of the live stream, so if anybody wants to donate, you can go on the website or you can use the Venmo code up at the top. But with that, I want to just go into some particulars. We have our timers here, Heather Larkin and Sally Miranda. Thank you both so much for doing this again. And we have two different buckets of candidates. It's a little confusing, but in terms of the questions being asked, it's not. They're all running for school committee. However, the first three here are running for a 4-year term, or 3 4-year terms. There are 4 candidates. Will Hagen, unfortunately, was not able to be here tonight. He would be the fourth candidate. So 4 candidates are running for 3 4-year terms. Then after that was set, we had Nicole Bucca resign 2 years into her term. So we have those 3 candidates who signed up to run for that, to finish out that term. It'll be 2 years. Just wanted to explain it because once you get in the ballot box, you're going to have 2 different choices, 2 different races essentially. But the issues are all the same. So we're not differentiating in terms of questions. We have a 2-minute opening statement, and we're going to ask Kevin Wright, Tim Munoz, Victoria Nguyen, Melissa Larson, Jessica Bro, and Skylar Weiss. I want to give them all a round of applause for coming here and participating. Thank you so much. Yes, running. We really appreciate that. Kevin, why don't you start with opening statement?
Absolutely.
You have 2 minutes.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Tim. So really appreciate everyone for joining us tonight. Really appreciate our hosts, organizers. So thank you so much for working on this. I'm really thrilled to be running for East Greenwich School Committee. I'm running because I want each and every one of our children to have the best possible educational experience, which includes my daughter, who is 2.5 years old. In the next 4 years, she will join into the East Greenwich school system, and I want her to have the best possible experience. I'm also running because of the incredibly important role that public education in particular and education broadly has played in my life. I didn't grow up here. I grew up in rural Appalachia. My parents were first generation college students and educators. Without their support and the work of teachers who believed in me, I would never have been able to attend Johns Hopkins, work in the United States Senate, and frankly, I, along with many of you, have found my American dream here in East Greenwich. Just like those who advocated for me in my educational experience, teachers and others, I want to advocate for East Greenwich schools. Thank you.
Tim Munoz. 2 minutes.
Hey everybody, I'm Tim Munoz. I am a sitting member of the school committee for the past 4 years, so I'm running for re-election. In that time, we have a terrific group and we've done some big things, I think, for the schools. I would start with the $150 million school construction project. As many of you know, that originated with the school committee. It's the school committee that got that approved by the Department of Education for up to $172 million. So as a member of the building committee, working with my good friends Allison and Kevin and others, that's a signal achievement, I think, and we look forward to the town executing on that construction project. I'm the chair of the policy committee. Policy is probably the biggest lever we have to affect change and governance in the schools. A lot of people don't know that or see that, but we all chair committees as school committee members, so we have subcommittees. So I do policy, and again, that sets policies, the laws, if you will, for the district. And I was one of the authors and principal movers behind the strategic plan, which again is our 5-year plan and our ambition to transform teaching and learning and build systems excellence and a financial foundation that will sustain us well into the future. So I think we've done a lot. Professionally, I'm a management consultant. I'm a partner at the New England Consulting Group. I have been an executive officer of 2 Fortune 500 companies. So that means one of the top 6 or 7 people in a company, fiduciary responsibility, extensive work with boards of directors. So I was the chief marketing officer of a huge asset management company called Lake Mason. I was the head of marketing for Comcast, a company you probably know. But my real passion is education, and I won't get quite as emotional as Kevin did, but I have been an instructor at Wharton for 7 years, and I created and taught a case at the Stanford Graduate School of Business for 4 years. I've been a corporate sponsor of Teach for America, making big investments in technology in the inner city schools in New York and Baltimore. As part of that, I went in and taught classes in the public schools. And once upon a time, when I was a graduate teaching fellow, I taught undergraduates at the University of Pennsylvania. So I do this not because I have private sector experience, which I certainly do and know a lot about boards, but I do this because of my passion for education. Thank you.
Victoria, you have 2 minutes.
Good evening, everyone. I want to extend my gratitude to EG New, Rotary member, and EG Chamber of Commerce for organizing this panel discussion, and to New England Tech with this wonderful facility that we're in. I also want to thank our community for joining us online. Anybody online right now? Thank you. My name is Victoria, and I am a doctor, so Dr. Victoria Nguyen, and I am passionately to advocate for education. Originally from Vietnam, I bring the educational credential. I am credentialed. I teach from K to 12. And with my background, I'm a veteran. I serve in the U.S. Air Force. And I am right now professional hospital chaplain. I work at Toby Hospital, which is all the way in Wayham. And with my over 25 years experience as consultant for commercial real estate, I balance my role as a successful educator, a member of Toastmaster, and a sponsors, partner, and educated mother of 2 daughters. I have one that's in EG High School right now, and she's here tonight to support me. With my background and unwavering committed, I aim to be a valuable addition to EG School Committee. I am dedicated to enhance education opportunity to all students, and most importantly, I want to have a statement: if not me, then who? If not now, when? I am motivated to secure a place on the committee, the school committee, to promote responsibility, openness, and community engagement.
Thank you. Jessica. Melissa, sorry.
Got it. Hi,
Jumping.
everybody. My name is Melissa Larson. I am an attorney. I'm a mother, and I'm running my own law practice. I'm running for school committee because we have this $150 million school bond. And as Tim said, they passed that in the last school committee session, and I'd like to thank them for that. We have this great opportunity, a once-in-a-generation opportunity to build and improve our schools, and I want to be a part of that. I'm a former Special Assistant Attorney General, bail commissioner, town solicitor, and municipal court judge. So I have experience working with local government, and I want to bring that experience to the school committee. I want to improve transparency and relations between the school committee and the town council. Like many families, I moved to East Greenwich for the schools and also for the community. I had no intention of leaving a home that I loved, but when I enrolled my daughter at Sweet Peas Village, I found an amazing community that I wanted to be a part of. I found my village. I now have a second grader in the East Greenwich Public Schools, and the experience has been exactly what I had hoped for. That being said, I understand that the East Greenwich schools are overdue for an overhaul of the buildings. They are outdated, and it's come time for us to revamp the facilities to accommodate the needs of all of our kids so they can realize their full potential. I have a special interest in school security. Since we're working on building a new building, I want to make sure that our kids are safe. I understand that budget concerns are always going to be present, but I believe security must be a top priority. I look forward to speaking with you, as many of you as I can, as we lead towards the election, and I'm respectfully requesting your vote on November 5th.
Thank you. Now it's time for Jessica.
My name is Jessica Bro. I'm a mother of 3 children, 2 who attend Eldridge and a kindergartner who just started at Frenchtown. Like so many families in our community, we chose to move here in 2021 based on the town's reputation for an exemplary school system. Over the past 3 years, I've had the privilege of working side by side with many of you as a volunteer on numerous school projects. When I saw areas that our schools were lacking, such as an unsafe outdoor space and experiential learning, I stepped up to lead the way because I don't just care about my children, I care about all of our children. Whether it was leading the charge on an outdoor revitalization, organizing STEM Day, spearheading an assembly with the Rhode Island Beekeepers Association, or serving on the Eldridge School Improvement Team and PTG Board, my goal has always been to enhance the experience for our students and help build a stronger school community. As a parent, I care deeply about the quality of education our children are receiving. Currently, I work on these issues with the PTGs and the School Improvement Team with other parents who are also deeply invested in our school community. Every day, I speak with parents who have concerns about school safety, class sizes, screen time, curriculum, access to services, and how the construction of new schools will affect our students who will be attending classes alongside a major construction zone. They do not feel heard by our current school committee. I share these concerns, and I know I can be effective in leading a larger conversation on these issues as a school committee member. I will work tirelessly to ensure every child in our schools receive the education they deserve, and I will always advocate for what's best for our students, parents, and teachers. I'm honored to be here tonight, and I look forward to sharing why I believe I'm the best candidate to serve you, your children, and our schools. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Skylar.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming out tonight. My name is Skylar Weiss. I am Rhode Island raised. I'm a product of the Barrington Public School system. And I was lucky to be a product of the Barrington Public School system. After graduating from Barrington High School, I then went to Colby College, where I got my bachelor's in economics and math. Then I went to do my MBA at IMD, a school in Lausanne, Switzerland. At 26, I was a vice president at Morgan Stanley in New York. At 31, I was the founder and CEO of a private bank in Switzerland. Now at 36, I run a VC, venture capital-backed company based in Providence. Maybe one day we'll move it to East Greenwich for those in the room. But beyond all that, most importantly, I'm a father of two beautiful children who happen to be in the back of the room right now. And when I moved from Switzerland, I gave up my dream job as the CEO of a Swiss bank. But part of the reason we did that is to move back to Rhode Island, to help my kids grow up here in Rhode Island. And reflecting on that decision to move back to Rhode Island, I thought, what are the things that are most important to me that have helped me get to where I am today? And education was a big part of that, a huge part of that. And so I knew that I had to go to a place where education is deeply valued. So it was Barrington or East Greenwich, right? That's always been the question, Barrington or East Greenwich. And for personal reasons, we went to East Greenwich. And upon moving to East Greenwich, based on the reputation, I found that the current residents, and from my research, that the schools are no longer what they were of the past. They're no longer deserving of the reputation that it's Barrington or East Greenwich. And so my wife and I looked at each other and said, well, we moved here for the schools, but the schools aren't so good anymore. So let's move and go to a place with different schools. But like I've done throughout my life, instead of running away from the fire, I run towards the fire. And now for my kids, for your kids, for all the kids in East Greenwich, I'm running for school committee to help build those schools back to the reputation that they deserve. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to start our questions now. Try to keep to time limits. I know it's hard, but try hard so we can keep moving and get as many questions in as possible. So the first question is going to go to you, Kevin. Or actually, no, I'm going to do Tim. We're going to keep going around because you started. So, sorry. Tim, who knows? There's been more evidence lately. There's been a lot of evidence lately of the negative effects of too much screen time use in school. What, if any, parameters would you want to implement in the schools, especially in the elementary settings, when it comes to how and when screens are being used? You have 2 minutes.
Okay. Thank you for the question. It's a very good one. And the policy committee is all over this. So again, policy is the main way in which we kind of affect change in the schools. So this year, as some of you may know, the high school enacted a procedure, not a policy, but the high school undertook basically a no mobile phone policy where the phone is put in a safe place at the beginning of the day and brought out at the end of the day. And we're following that very closely because that's something that we all wanted to do for a long time, but we wanted to get some empirical experience and see. There are some issues. Parents need to be in touch with their kids. Kids might need to use the phone for something, so it's not quite as black and white as everybody thinks. But in the high school, I have to say it's going surprisingly well. And that's the view of both parents and students. The students don't miss the distractions and stuff. So what we're doing right now, and to get to the heart of the question is, in the next couple of months, we're going to be holding a series of policy meetings, and I invite you all to come. Not many people do show up at our meetings, but this is where it happens. And we're going to be looking at how we might translate that policy to the middle school and the elementary school, making adjustments for the appropriate, intellectual, social, development of kids in those two different cohorts, elementary and middle school. So, I think we are very much pro-digital wellness as a school committee, as a set of administrators and teachers and stuff like that. We're going about this in a purposeful way. I don't think there's too much screen time in the schools. We've talked to a couple of people who've asked that question, especially in the elementary schools right now. It is important that younger kids become digitally literate and that they learn to, use computers and devices in the right way, but they are not using them to go on TikTok and chat up their friends and stuff like that. It's a very controlled environment. But again, I think we're all over this. And I think we all understand the perils of too much screen time, especially things that are not educational in nature. So thank you for the question.
Thank you, Tim. Does anybody else want to respond to that, want to use one of your turns to respond to that? Jessica, you have 1 minute.
Thank you. I would say I really do love the policy that they've implemented at the high school. However, there is much too much screen time at the elementary level. Having children in elementary, I know firsthand that they use it as a reward. It's used for indoor recess. With the Eldridge field being taken over right now, they are having more indoor recess than usual, and they are allowing them to go on screens. I think that this should be time that is used for socialization and building on our social skills, not sitting in front of an individualized screen.
Yes, Melissa, 1 minute.
I have to agree with Jessica on that with respect to screen time in the elementary schools, and I think it's something that we should look at in addition to screen time in the high schools with the cell phones. Specifically, when my daughter started at Frenchtown, she was actually behind because I personally wasn't allowing screen time at home, and she didn't even know how to use a Chromebook. So she's fine now. She was able to catch up, but when she comes home and talks about what did you do today, 20 minutes Alexia, 20 minutes of Freckle, 20 minutes of this, I have to agree that that's something that we should look at too. That's not how we went to school. I understand that kids need to learn how to use this technology, but I don't think it should be the core way that our kids are learning.
Okay, thank you, Jessica. Anybody else? All right, then our next question will go to Victoria.
Testing the mic.
You'll have 2 minutes to answer. The state has yet to mandate pre-kindergarten, but many feel it's just a matter of time. How can the district best prepare for a full pre-K program?
Well, this is not on my cheat list. Pre-kindergarten, and I have a daughter, she's still out there, that she got to attend pre-kindergarten. And I think there's a benefit in that. Because early child development, that we know that it's not a mandatory, it is an option, whether the parent will get a choice to put your kid in education to learn how to socially behave and in the classroom. And I think that's important, but I don't know about the mandatory and how's that support. I have to do more research on that topic because that is one of the things that I think is like early education is important. As a parent, I think everybody in here, like being a parent, you know that you want your child to know how to read when they're 2 years old. because I have 2 years old on how to do the alphabet at home. And my younger daughter know how to read music note because he learned how to do like ABCD. So I think it's valuable of the early of education. You introduce early is better way for the child to develop into long term and in higher education, and that is what I believe.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to respond to that question? Skylar, you have 1 minute.
Yeah, thank you for that. So I think there's a lot that goes into this question. There's not a single answer that can address it. But I think one of the things we really need to think about is how do we afford this education? We're already struggling to afford the current schooling that we give. We actually run annual deficits, which are covered by a unrestricted fund within the school. And if we go into having additional grades, which I would love, because personally it would, my kids are young right now, so they would be a part of that, and then you could have the continuation. But again, you need to think about how do you, the key things to think about beforehand are how do you transition, how do you implement this new solution so that all the kids get to go there, how do you afford it, and how do you make it a smooth transition throughout all the schools?
Thank you. Anybody else? All right, we'll move to our next question, and that is to Melissa. You'll have 2 minutes. Do you feel that current school offerings are enough to meet the needs of our diverse student body, from the highest achievers to those who want to pursue more voc tech type futures to students who need special education offerings?
So I'm not on the committee now. I don't know the full breadth of what's being offered, but I do think that's something that we need to look at and expand, specifically
Thank you.
with AP classes, robotics, tech, STEM. I think we need to look into those offerings, see what else we can do. Of course, there's always budgetary constraints. Like I mentioned in my opening, it's tough, but I don't think that we should be restricting kids who have certain abilities. For example, I've been speaking to a lot of parents, and one thing that I've learned is that our kids are testing in 6th grade a math test that determines their math class placement for the rest of their education in the East Greenwich schools. So the class that your kid is taking in math in 11th grade was determined by a 6th grade standardized test. I might be missing something, but I don't understand that. I think that our kids, if they grow, everyone learns at a different level. I think that there need to be enough classes to meet all of their needs. With respect to special education, originally when I learned at the school bond, I thought, do we really need this? I think Frenchtown is charming. I really enjoy it. I didn't understand why it needed to be knocked down, but then I was educated that we need to have better spaces for our special education students, and that really is what got me behind this bond. We need to do for all of our children. So to answer the question simply, yes, I think that we should look into expanding our programs to meet the needs of all of our students.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to weigh in? Yes, Victoria.
Sorry, I cut short answer last time, so I'll make it up now. I do believe that have a strong knowledge of physical science is important to go, because I begin with physical science. I'm very good with physics. And then finally I have to study theology and divinity as well. This is like something I need to have a foundation on. So go back to the early education. We have that early education, pre-kindergarten. Now I know that my kid, when we first come here, we have the Lego Robotic Club. I love that program because it's helped my child to engage into like robotic. Once he terrified robot, once he first looked at it, he said, well, this is machine is moving, right? So that's something we can introduce to our younger student. Now the policy, that's where the school committee needs to sit down and work out all the detail. But I love to engage kids with different learning ability to engage.
Thank you. Anybody else? Kevin.
Yeah, absolutely. So my grandfather was a well driller. I grew up working summers and holidays at the family well drilling business. We need support for every child, no matter their path, and this is incredibly important to me. There is frankly no more vital support or resource than water. Different folks have different thoughts about what excellence means for each child, their path, and we need a path for excellence for every single child, no matter their path. And so I definitely strongly support continuing and technical education.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, then we go to the next, and that is Jessica. Thank you, sorry. Harder than I thought to keep track. A recent opinion column in EG News, no less, raised the issue of test scores. How important are test scores to you? What are the metrics by which you measure success?
Thank you. That's a tough question. I would like to point out that our children are not test scores. Tests are a snapshot of your child in that moment when they are taking that test. Did they not have enough breakfast that day? Did they drop their pen and lose focus? Are they not up to date on the current computer that they're using? I know that when my children take the STAR assessment, the first one of the year, they always score lower because we don't do unlimited screen time at home. And this is a conversation I have with their teachers every year. And by the time they take the second STAR test, they're in the 90th percentile. It doesn't indicate whether or not they're going to be successful in their future endeavors. It doesn't indicate who they are as a student or what is really going on inside that child. And so I don't feel like test scores alone are a good indicator of where your student is or how the teachers are handling the curriculum.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to respond?
So how do you measure school?
Yeah, it's not really a debate format.
So that was actually the question. So that was the question you asked, which was not answered. So I wrote that article, right? And I'll be upfront about it. And again, nowhere in that article does it say that test scores are kids, right? That's not what I'm saying. There are kids who score poorly on standardized tests and go on to do great things. There are kids who score well on standardized tests and do poorly in life. There's no single point of definition of who a kid is, and that was never the argument. So what is true is that standardized tests do have predictive measures, and actually the president of Brown, a very well-respected school here in Rhode Island, said that standardized test scores are highly predictive for their first-year grades in university. That being said, forget that, right? Over the past 5 years, standardized test scores have dropped 70 points. The average SAT in East Greenwich High School has dropped 70 points. And over that same time period, top schools in Massachusetts have actually increased their standardized test scores. So again, we should expect more from East Greenwich schools. We can expect more, and we can do better.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to? Tim and a lot of people. Tim first. 1 minute.
Sky, it's very important for you because you said you like to rush into fire. So you rushed into an inferno of misunderstanding and complete ignorance of the data. Massachusetts, the SAT is optional. Okay, the participation rates in the highest ranked districts in Massachusetts, Brookline, Lexington, Weston, you pick, okay, are in the 50% range, sometimes higher. In the state of Rhode Island, you put your hand down, please. In the state of Rhode Island, the SAT is compulsory, okay? 96% of students in this town took it. So you are comparing apples to kumquats, okay? First of all, you over-rely on the SAT. But secondly, you made a huge mistake in not understanding that 90% plus of the variance between average test scores in Rhode Island versus Massachusetts are the difference between compulsory versus optional. Okay. The other thing I would say is you made a grievous mistake when you were talking about RICAS. I don't think you seem to know what RICAS is. Okay. Morgan Stanley does not hire entry-level analysts based on their RICAS scores because RICAS is a test administered to 3rd through 8th grade. It's not the SAT. When you make a mistake, you should own it.
Yeah, thank you. You know what? You have 3 opportunities if you want to use your third. You've done 2. Okay.
So again, in Switzerland, when I moved to Switzerland, I didn't know what the term gaslighting is, right? I had never heard this term. And then when I moved back, I'd heard it and I said, what is this? You know, and I started to hear things like what he's saying. What you just heard is totally false. So if you go to the top schools in Massachusetts, they have either equal or roughly the same participation in the SAT as East Greenwich does. So there's not a sampling bias that he's referring to. There's a huge, you can go on the Massachusetts Department of Education website. This is all public data. It's not my data. It's public data. And find out that what he said is wrong. We should not be justifying or normalizing decreasing SAT scores. I know what the RICAS is. It's based off of the MCAS. And this is not, the point is people were making arguments against my points, saying that the MCAS and RICAS scores are the ones that we should be using. The fact is that the real world, once you leave the public school systems, they don't use those scores. SAT is used for the rest of your life, or for, not in every case, but in a lot of cases.
Got it. Time to stop. Thank you. Melissa and then Kevin.
So I have so much to say.
Again, 1 minute, and make sure you're talking into the mic just
Okay.
so it gets picked up for our viewers at home.
Okay, thank you, Elizabeth. Okay, standardized test scores, the SAT, it's important. It's important to do well on standardized tests. I know I aced the driver's ed test, standardized test portion of it. I killed that test and look where it got me. But if you are so down on East Greenwich schools, then why are you here? We all moved here for these schools because we believe in these schools. Why would you move here if you think that they are so bad? And in terms of why our scores are down, we have one word, COVID. Everybody's test scores are down across the board. We do not have a failing system. The sky is not falling down. Are there places we can make improvements? Absolutely. You can make improvements with everything, with your job, with anything, but that doesn't mean we're in a crisis. We are not in a crisis.
Thank you. Melissa, Kevin.
Yeah, I would honestly just read directly from the College Board's report about SATs and their data caveat they include here. Relationships between test scores and other background or contextual factors are complex, interdependent. Caution is warranted when scores are used to compare or evaluate teachers, schools, districts, or states because of differences in participation and test taker populations. That is an enormous portion of what we need to understand here if we are using this single factor and a huge caveat from the not from myself, not from anyone here, the administrator of the SATs themselves.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? I think almost everybody has. You know what, Skylar, you have no more opportunity. You can use your closing. I know this is hard, but this is, I understand. We aren't doing it that time, partly because there are 6 of you. Wait, stop. Okay, but listen, we have 6 people. We don't have 2. So it really isn't a debate the way you think of like a presidential or vice presidential debate. I know that's frustrating to you guys. You can use your closing or, if you choose to spend part of your answer on another question. And you're up next. So there. When budget season, you have 2 minutes. When budget season rolls around, invariably what the school committee asks for is not what the town council ultimately funds. How can the school committee better collaborate with the town council to make budget decisions?
Yeah, this is actually an area that I know quite well. So just for everybody's sake, I think it's good to lay out what the situation is in East Greenwich today. So effectively, over the past couple of years, the budget within East Greenwich has grown from 42 million to 49 million projected next year budget. So quite a big increase, 49 million, nearly 50 million. And one thing to note is that's the budget. Right? That's the projected spend that they have every year. Now, what's happened over the past couple of years is they've actually spent more than what they budgeted, quite a bit more, right? So every year they're spending more than their budget, and they're needing to cover that deficit with a unrestricted fund, which was set aside for the school. So to give you concrete numbers, it was around 4 million 3 years ago. Now it's going to be less than 1 million once the new figures come out this year. That is a big, big, big drop, and it means that if there are significant expenditures that we need to put money into, it's not going to be there. And it's going to have to come from the town council. They're going to have to approve these excess spendings. And that is the source of this discrepancy between the town council and the school committee, is that the school committee is just spending a lot of money. There's a lot of money that's being spent, more than what's actually being budgeted. And at the end of the day, somebody needs to cover that. And if the school doesn't have the money, then it's going to have to go to the town council. So I think the first thing is, how do we review the existing expenditures to make sure that when we budget something, that's what we spend? And then we should keep the reserve fund intact and keep that well-funded so that when something happens, because it's not an if, something always happens. When something happens, that we can handle those excess expenditures. Thank you.
Thank you. Skylar, would anyone else like to weigh in? Tim, you have 1 minute.
Sky. It's not an unrestricted fund. We don't run deficits. By law, by statute, we cannot run deficits. We've had a fund balance, which every municipal entity, school districts and towns all have, okay? We've had a fund balance that was unusually high because of a windfall when we changed benefits providers several years ago. So we had a fund balance that was twice as large as we ever had before, $3 million. When we go before the town has looked at that fund balance, and they have given us less than we asked for because they have created an expectation that we will use that fund balance to fund things that we think are critical, like giving the teachers the first raise above 2% that they'd had in 20 years, okay? Like fixing facilities, like investing in high quality curriculum. We have what are called unfunded mandates that you don't know anything about, okay? Where the state of Rhode Island says you must teach this way, you must use these materials. That costs a lot of money. That's an unfunded mandate.
Okay,
so we have
Tim?
a fund, no, I'm gonna finish this, please. We have a fund balance that goes towards those expenses.
You're gonna use your last time if
But
you want to
the
keep going.
false information, the
You're
JD
gonna-
Vance thing.
You're gonna lose your time. Thank you. All right, we are back at the beginning. We're at Kevin for your first question, actually, so it's not quite the beginning. Sorry. Statistics show children are far more at risk in automobiles than they are at school. Yet the incidence of school shootings makes school safety and security issues impossible to ignore. Are EG schools doing enough?
So to answer this question, first, we take our 2.5-year-old. We take our 2.5-year-old on a daily basis to daycare on a bike. I have seen firsthand the challenges that exist within the automobile statistic that you stated. We need to keep our children safe, period. And that is a strong position that I hold. I'm sure everyone holds here. And so as a part of that, we need high quality programs and procedures that are relevant to keeping our children safe. That includes physical processes as well as individuals keeping our children safe. So a lot of our procedures are frankly not public for good reason with the schools. I would rely on the experts here to understand what those are. And a locked door can make a huge difference. There are a lot of things that can make a huge difference. We need to keep our children safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Victoria. Okay. Melissa, thank you. 1 minute.
So this is my biggest concern, and frankly, the reason why I'm running. We're building a new school. It has to be safe for our kids. The DOJ has listed 10 things that we need to do to ensure that our schools are safe, with comprehensive school assessments, with a school climate, which is things like fostering a sense of community so that our kids feel like they belong and they don't resort to these types of measures. Classroom security, things like making sure that the doors are able to lock from the inside, anonymous reporting systems, coordination with first responders, having memorandums of understanding with our local police department, behavioral and threat management, having our school resource officers available, having availability for mental health resources, drills, and social media monitoring. Some of these things don't even cost any money. Social media monitoring, that is the responsibility of the parents, and for the parents to have an open line of communication with their children to say, if you see something on someone's social media page that's concerning, let me know. So yes, some of these things are going to cost money, but not all of them. And we need to make sure this is a top priority.
Thank you, Melissa. Victoria.
Yes, so I totally do not repeat what Melissa have said. That is very important for our children to be safe, because that is one of the things. That's why we have the school committee. That's why we want to look at the policy, how to have the safety learning environment, a positive environment. But to me, it's very important is to have a community that do not have stress out people, what job, whatever your household issue, it will make the community very at high risk level. So we should have that, the community, partner up with the school, and we create a safety learning environment. And a healthy and happy community is start from home, and it start from you, and it start from parent to children.
Thank you. Okay, I realized I did not tell Jessica that was your, Melissa, that was your third time, just so you know. Now it's Jessica, and you are on your second.
Thank you. Safety is a huge concern of mine as well, and expanding on Melissa's points, I agree with all of them. Having kids in two separate schools, I have seen the things that the school committee has implemented for the new safety protocols, and I agree with them. But I would also like to expand on the fact that most of the school shooters are former students or current students. They know the procedures. I would love to look into a system that they used in Georgia with the panic button badges to alert people immediately when there's a threat, and to lower the impact of such an instance. And I pray to God that no one ever has to deal with that in our community, but I want to prepare for the worst and hope for the best.
Thank you. If nobody else wants to respond, the question goes to Tim. This is the second round of questions. Tim, Bob Hodling played a huge role in advocating for programs to help kids with their mental health and to avoid things like vaping and alcohol. His death last year has left a void. What is being done or could be done to fill that void for students?
Thank you. And, some of you know Bob was a dear friend of mine, so what Bob Hodling did for this town is incalculable.
Remember to hold your mic up.
Yes.
Thank you.
So, but we do a lot. So we've made the largest investments in the past 4 years as a school committee on several things that certainly intersect Bob's world, but more broadly cover the subject of social and emotional wellness, behavioral health. So we have relationships with Thrive, we have relationships with the West Bay Collective. We've spent more money on this than ever before. Bob was fantastic, but Bob was one guy. He'd be the first one to tell you that. And Bob walked around the buildings and stuff like that. So we don't have this treasure anymore in the town, but what we are trying to do is systematize some of the things that we can do with resources. So we've hired school psychologists, we have behavioral counselors, we've started a program in the past 3 years called MTSS, Multi-Tiered Support Services, which is services and scaffolding for at-risk kids, both academically, emotionally, socially, and stuff like that. We pay tremendous attention to this. We've made more investments in special education. We've made more investments in, what I would call, and I think the schools do terrifically at this. So for those of you who experience the unified programs, we've done more to try to help kids be better peer supports for their classmates. And I think that's worked marvelously. So social and emotional wellness, social emotional learning is a top priority at all the schools. We fund it. We've created 2 new positions for it. It needs leadership. It needs systematic programming. We've invested heavily in that. We'll continue to do that. And we'll try to honor what Bob did, but go more broadly. It's not just drugs and vaping. We certainly are all over that, but it's to really take care of the whole child and to take care of every possible risk that adolescents face that many of us didn't when we were younger too. So thank you for the question.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to respond to that question? Otherwise, we move to our next question. That's to Victoria. Victoria, are you satisfied with the leadership of the school district?
This is very tough. I live in East Greenwood, but unfortunately, I work really far away, and I try to make to some of the meeting that we have here at the school town council meeting or the school committee meeting last week or this week that we have it, and I participate online for an hour. I cannot say that I'm satisfied or not because I try to be engaged as a resident of East Greenwood, and I appreciate that all the current school committee have a lot of issues that you guys have to work with, and especially with the bonding and the new school site construction issue that you guys have to deal with. So I appreciate my attitude is if I cannot contribute, I appreciate what you guys have done, and I want to step forward and see what I can do to help out with my ability. So that's how I show my gratitude to follow your footstep and see what I can do to make it better. Because I know that we all have the same hour and time and resources to live our life and to share with one another in our community. So thank you again for the current service member.
Thank you, Victoria. Would anyone else like to weigh in on that? Current leadership of the school? Yes, to Jessica. This will, Jessica, be your final response? Second, actually.
The short answer is no. Parents are frustrated with the current leadership. We have a superintendent that is not part of our community and has not been very diligent in communication, responding to emails or concerns, actively tells parents that the teacher cannot respond because they didn't like the tone of your email. We have him sending text messages very late at night to everyone about a possible threat at Cole with no explanation and refusal to expand on what was going on. So no, we are not pleased with the current superintendent. We are not happy. We need strong leadership, and he's not it.
Okay, thank you. Would anyone else like to respond? It's really only Tim, you have one response. Kevin, you have 2.
Why don't we up it by 1?
Well, because we're, let's keep moving, and
I might let everybody go a little long on their closing statement, and then you can address some of these. We are on, Melissa, thank you. Unlike in many other Rhode Island communities, it is the town council that is the ultimate manager of the $150 million school construction project. How can the school committee have impact? What do you see as the school committee's role in this building project?
Well, I think it's no secret that there is some animosity between the current school committee and the town council, and part of what I'd like to do is help that, cause a bridge that the two entities can work together. We obviously have conflicting interests in that the school committee needs to get the funding that we need, and the town council needs to make sure that everything comes within budget. But I don't think the current contentiousness that exists between the two bodies needs to be that way. We're always going to have conflicting goals, but I think that if the two bodies were to work together a little bit better, it would be better for everybody. And in terms of the specifics with the spending, I'm currently not on the committee. I've been watching some of the past meetings, but I can't say that I can go into enough specifics or details right now as to what needs to be done with the spending. We're obviously constricted with the funds that we have, and building costs are escalating. We're going to have to find a way to make it work, and that's probably going to mean that everybody isn't going to get what they want right away, but hopefully we'll get there.
Would anyone else like to address this question? Okay, Tim, your final extra.
I don't think there's animosity. I think there's dedicated public servants who sometimes disagree with each other. What I would say is that the law is crystal clear, so this really isn't a matter of subjective opinion. And the law in Rhode Island says that only school committees can enter into an agreement with the Rhode Island Department of Education for school construction projects. The school construction project is managed by the School Building Authority, which is a subset of RIDE. And so the reason for that is very simple. RIDE wants school committees and superintendents and school districts to make decisions about educational strategy. So deciding where the money should go in support of what educational objectives it is and always should be, quite frankly, a decision of a school committee that's looking after the 30 and 40-year best interests of education in the town. It should be free from, political actors who don't manage education on a daily basis and might have different views based on what they perceive to be popular or not. So when we push back against each other, ultimately what we do is we end up with the law.
Thank you.
And the law is quite clear.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you. All right, anybody else want to respond? I guess there's only one person, Kevin. So, and you do still have two opportunities. We're going to stay on this topic, and that goes to Jessica. Thank you. It appears that the $150 million won't be enough to fulfill everything town residents want for the schools. What would you prioritize?
I would prioritize accessibility for our special needs students. Currently, there aren't any accessible playgrounds in East Greenwich at all. I would prioritize making sure that we have enough room for our current students and the projected students that are coming up. And I would definitely prioritize making sure that we have a safe drop-off and pickup routine for our kids. And I also want to say that I think that we can look into grants and other funding if we can't meet the needs of what we have in the bond. We can certainly try to think outside the box and make things happen.
Okay, thank you. Kevin, any interest in responding?
Yeah, we certainly need to address this directly head on with close collaboration across the community between the school construction committee, the town council, and school committee with their already acknowledged different roles. I specifically would particularly prioritize educational experience in those school projects. And as Jessica mentioned, accessibility certainly, and making sure they are welcoming to every single one of our students, and that we have the space available to fulfill the needs of every single student. I would prioritize function over yeah.
Thank you. Skylar, is the school district's budget is the largest in town. What experience do you have with budget oversight? Can you cite a budget for which you have been responsible?
Yes, that's a very easy question for me. I have overseen over 100 million of budget, not as a manager or as an employee, but as the CEO of a company. So I managed annual budgets in excess of 30 million while running a Swiss bank. And not only are you responsible for the budget of the company, but you are responsible for the safekeeping of your client's assets, which is in the hundreds of millions, right? So my experience with finance is extensive, and from the figures that I've seen, I think that there are opportunities to better manage the budget here in East Greenwich with the schools to get a further outcome. And I've got a lot of ideas on that I'd love to share, but my time is probably going to run out and they're going to cut me off. So I'm happy to talk to anybody who wants to talk to me about it afterwards, though. But yes, again, the budget this is something I would definitely bring value to the school committee with my experience, both at Morgan Stanley, where I served for close to 7 years, and then at Alpian, the bank that I founded and was a CEO of, and now of Lightframe, which is a venture capital-backed company that's based here in Rhode Island.
Thank you. I mean, you can keep going if you want.
Do you have any other? I mean, that's my experience, so.
That's it.
Okay, well, look, then if I have some more time, what I think some of the areas that we can look into in terms of optimizing the budget, right? So I've gone through the budget that we've had in East Greenwich. One of the things that I notice is we send a lot of money to other schools outside of East Greenwich, right? So we're actually sending a lot of money to charter schools, to private schools. Why? We should be bringing kids to East Greenwich, turning that into a revenue opportunity rather than an expense.
Okay, that's time. Thank you. I think we only have one more question, and that goes to Kevin. School committee members often rail against unfunded state mandates. How could the school committee work with the General Assembly to shape legislation?
Yeah, really appreciate the question. I used to work in the United States Senate. I would work to bring that experience to make sure that our partners at every level are well aware of burdens placed on us, the impact of that, and that we have proper funding, and would work to make those unfunded mandates funded. I, having spent several years in DC, very well know advocacy. I would work with our elected officials, federal, state, any level, to make sure that we are both, we have requirements that are valid and that we have requirements that are not unfunded but funded, and make sure that East Greenwich receives the dollars that it should for the education of our students.
Okay, thank you. Actually, Victoria, you do have another turn if you want to take it.
I did not miss Carol.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm
I
very
was
sorry.
looking at it like, did I still have one chance? Because I want to go back and respond to the question on the budget and how the City Council work with the school committee. And I believe, like what Tim have mentioned, that for the conflict of interest and how to manage the fund. Because by the end of the day, who's an expert in what field? Because we want the best education, we want the best environment for our kids, then the school committee is the one who really pay more attention and work closely, like the leadership of the school, like superintendent or teacher, and all of that have to be closely related with school committee. So I believe that go to back to budget, that the building instruction it should be expertly by school committee. I'm not favored because I'm running for it.
Okay, thank you. That's the end of our regular questions. We're going to move into closing statements now, but we are going to allow for up to 90 seconds on the closing statements so that if you have something you felt strongly about earlier that you weren't able to respond, you can tack that in. And we will start with Victoria.
Oh, how lucky I am. I didn't get to rest, but it's okay. And I have extra 30 seconds because I prepared only 60 seconds. First of all, I really appreciate and thank you everybody at home that tune in and follow us and here in the room. And I really want to read up what I'm right, but I'm not going to since we have 90 seconds. I know that most of us, we have different way of understanding. And I know that it's very hard for you guys to understand my English because it's my second language. It's not my native language. And I am also a visual learner. If I don't hold something in my hand, whatever you say, it's going behind me, okay? So anybody that wants to follow what I say so far, or my question, or the answer that I respond, I have it on repair on the writing, so that way you guys I can sing it to you too. But that's what I have on my closing statement that I really appreciate that you can elect all of us and you have to know who we are and what we can do to serve you and your family. I want to be your voice. I want to be the servant to our community. And that's why I really appreciate that you trusted me and elected me on this coming campaign.
Thank you, Victoria. Melissa, oh, they have it already, yeah.
All right, so as expected, this went by really quick. We had limited opportunities to speak, so I'll just get to a couple of points I wasn't able to get to in the questioning. If I used the word animosity incorrectly to in any way discount the hard work that the current town council and school committee is doing, I apologize. I've met with most, if not all of you, and the one thing that is clear is that the current school committee and town council are working very hard. I think we need to continue with the good work that we're doing, not focus on the negative, focus on the positive, focus on what we can do to make things better, not drag the town through the mud with things that aren't going correctly. We have a great town, we have a great community, and we just want to make it better and not focus on, some little negative things that exist in every single community. And finally, just to expand on one of Jessica's points with respect to grants, funding is always going to be limited, and we do need to tap into resources with grants. I know the DOJ does have grants available to increase school safety. I'm not a grant writer, but hopefully we can use a grant writer in the school committee to get us some additional funding and also to lobby the state to get additional funding, not just for East Greenwich, but across the board. We are privileged to be in this community and to give our kids this education. Not all the kids in Rhode Island get to have this opportunity. They all should, but we're all very lucky to be here. And I just wanted to thank everybody for listening and again, ask for your vote.
Thank you. Jessica.
Our students are not test scores. They are not bond money. They are the future of this community and our country. They deserve a learning environment where they feel safe, welcomed, and engaged in their curriculum. Of course, managing the bond responsibly is a priority, but it's not just about buildings and finances. It's about ensuring that every decision benefits our students directly. I am focused on what's happening inside our classrooms right now, on making sure our students are engaged, supported, and inspired, from advocating for the right learning tools to championing the kind of safe, inclusive environment our kids deserve. I'm here to be a voice for families. As an active parent, I know the challenges our children face and the resources our teachers need to help them thrive. This is why I'm running, to ensure that throughout the process of rebuilding, we're prioritizing what truly impacts our students' daily experiences. I am here to serve our kids, to keep their education and well-being at the center of every decision we make. Listen, I know I'm the loud mom who's always asking too many questions, but that's what this community needs. You'll find me most days at Frenchtown and Eldridge with a giant coffee, dropping off a forgotten lunch, or making props for the school play. These are things I think the school committee members should be present at our schools, seeing the incredible work that our students, parents, and teachers are putting in on a daily basis, whether that's the whole new outdoor space that we implemented on our own at Eldridge, or a simple good morning greeting to kindergartners at Frenchtown and Meadowbrook on their first day of school. We are a community of involved parents, and we deserve an involved school committee. Thank you for your time and attention, and I look forward to working with the school committee to strengthen our schools.
Skylar?
Yeah, thank you everybody for coming out tonight. I'd like to applaud my fellow candidates because honestly, I have a lot of respect for everybody who's willing to put their time and effort into improving our schools. That said, I think, when you look at tonight, you see a lot of debate, and I knew it was going to happen tonight. I knew it was coming, and I think it's a good thing, right? I think if you look at the school committee that's there today, there's not enough debate. There's not enough argument, and we're probably going to go out after. He's going to be mad at me, but we'll argue about it, and then I'll show him my statistics. He'll show me his, and we'll figure out what's the best way forward, and I think that's what the school committee needs. It needs diversity of thought. It needs diversity of opinion. And that's something that I bring clearly. I also bring the statistics, which is very concerning for me. And maybe it's not concerning for everybody, but you should not be thought less of because you have a concern for statistics. For example, East Greenwich is now ranked 3rd in Rhode Island by niche, behind Barrington and North Kingstown. The average SAT has fallen 70 points over the past 5 years. It now sits at 1130. Close to 90% of Lexington, Massachusetts students take the test and they scored 1330. Their SAT has increased through COVID over 20 points. Our scores have fallen 70 points. Those are the stats. You can go on the websites of the respective Department of Educations and see them for yourself. Dozens of EG parents have come to me and have told me that they send their kids to private schools because the kids are not getting enough from the public school educations. We need balance in the committee. That's something I'd love to bring. Thank you.
Thank you. Kevin, 90 seconds.
Thank you. I believe I did, as many of you did, move to East Greenwich, grew up here knowing that our schools were high quality. There is work to do, certainly, but when I hear questions about Lexington, where the average home price is $1.7 million, that has an impact. When I hear questions about the overall quality, there is a question that needs to be answered there as to the data quality of that. I will work together with each and every one of you to continue to raise up our schools. I will work with the community to continue the good work that has been done for decades in East Greenwich on our schools. And again, to echo some of the other comments, very much appreciate the forum and the opportunity for the community to stay involved and informed.
Thank you. Finally, we have Tim Munoz.
Munoz. Munoz in pure Castilian. Thank you, everybody. Good discussion. Some of you may not know this, but Sky is my new next door neighbor. So Sky and I are I'm going to have to go knock on his door and bring him a cup of something, hemlock, wine. I don't know. We'll figure that out. But anyway, I appreciate, though, honestly, everybody's passion and commitment and stuff like that. You know, one common theme that strikes me is that everybody really sincerely cares about the welfare of the kids in the schools. And I would just say, you know, that is our strategic plan. It's called All Means All. I wrote those words. We believe deeply in that. And that the mission of the public schools anywhere, but in this town, like every other town in America, is to take care of every child, what they need. Some are high achievers and high flyers. Some are average, normal kids. Some need special attention and interventions. I think we do a really good job fighting for every drop of money, and not with the town council. You know, there's an adversarial system that's set up between schools and towns in Rhode Island, which we all wish was different. I think Mark and Mike would be the first ones to tell you that. But we honestly all care deeply about helping every single child. And I think that's what gives me satisfaction the past 4 years, and hopefully in the next 4 years too, is doing everything we can to help kids in every way possible, academically, intellectually, socially, emotionally. And we take great pride in what we've done, and we look forward to doing a lot more. And each of you would be a fine addition to that, but some of you I favor more than others. So anyway, I think we'll be in good shape. Thank you.
All right, that's it for the school committee forum. Thank you all. Thank you to our candidates. Thank you to our timers. We're going to take 10 minutes to switch around. I'd like to see all the town council candidates down in about 7 minutes so I can brief you. We'll be back. And
Remember how many, we've got a list here to count. But if I make a mistake,
call me out. Hey, everybody, welcome back. I'm going to try this mic this time because I heard maybe that it wasn't working so well for me to use the lavalier, which I thought was kind of cool to use. But anyway, hi, Elizabeth McNamara from East Greenwich News. Thank you all for being here. A lot of you already were here, so you heard my spiel. But I did want to take a minute to just thank the candidates, first of all, for putting themselves out here and up here for everybody, but also to say that we are doing something that most communities don't do. I had a friend over today, and she heard me talking to Darren about name tags or name cards, and she's like, "Gosh, East Greenwich is so lucky to have this." She lives in Situate. She has no idea who her candidates are unless they happen to come on, knock on her door. So I hope that you all value this. It does cost some money. Thankfully, the Rotary has stepped forward to pay for some of what we're doing with the live stream. But even just doing what we do every day, we do rely on donations. We are a nonprofit. We thank the Chamber for partnering with us again on these candidate forums. We are just good partners at this point at doing this, and the Rotary again for chipping in, and New England Tech for giving us this great space again for free. So nice. With that, we're going to get started. We have Renu from my left, Renu Engelhardt, Mike Zarella, Peter Rogers, Kurt Hamill, Mike Donegan, Karen Korenthal, and Mark Schwager. And we will begin opening statements, 2-minute statements with Renu Engelhardt.
Hello, is this good?
Yeah, and do try, candidates, to talk into the mic a little more than you might want to.
All right, good evening. Thank you to EG News, to East Greenwich Chamber of Commerce, to the East Greenwich Rotary, and New England Tech for sponsoring this debate. I am very pleased to be up here tonight asking for one more term on the East Greenwich Town Council. My name is Renu Engelhardt, and I am a current Town Council member. I am married to Peter, who's actually in Florida in a hurricane, so we hope he comes back. And I also have 3 adult children who went through the East Greenwich school system all the way through. I also have one daughter-in-law, Sarah Schwartz. I am very proud of the accomplishments of this Town Council and consider myself lucky to be able to serve with such a great, talented group of people. It has been challenging at times, and we've all put in long hours in and out of meetings. It is not always harmonious. We've often disagreed with each other regarding decisions and desired outcomes. However, I have never felt that my view was disparaged or denigrated. I am also very fortunate to work with a competent municipal administration and employees. They are the backbone of this town and put in hours and are often overlooked because they are so efficient at their jobs. Thank you again, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you. Mike?
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Mike Zarella. I lived in this town since I was 16 years old. When we first took over the council, me and my colleagues, the town was in trouble. Schools weren't funded. Firemen had like 50 lawsuits against the town. Everything was wrong. We came in and we changed it. Part of the reason we changed it is because we hired professionals. My 2 biggest votes I made here was voting for Andy Nada to be the town manager and Trish Sutherland to be the finance director. All the money that we gave to the schools last year, the full 4%, that would have been possible without them. Andy, don't ask for a raise, though. We have problems in the future that are coming up. My biggest problem I see is the deforestation of East Greenwich. We are losing trees. We are losing open space. We need to do something about that. I don't know how we can do it. I think what we need to do is try to buy as much land as we possibly can. We should do incentives for people to keep the trees when they build areas, not just knock everything out. This is very important. Now, I know there's been some recent groups that have been trying to plant trees. I know Sally Miranda planted one in her yard, but we do need to keep as many trees in the area as we can. The next issue we need to deal with is the roads. The roads are getting pretty bad in East Greenwich. If you drive through the Tanglewood area, you can understand what I'm talking about. But there's a bond coming up, so hopefully a lot of the roads will be fixed in the near future. I also have a plan. I believe they're going to be opening up the Main Street to do some construction, I would love at that time if we could put those wires underground and make Main Street even more beautiful than it is now. I think we have an opportunity when they open that up to put all those wires, get rid of all the telephone poles, and that will look like it did in the 1800s. It would be a beautiful thing for the town. And last, which everybody hears every year, we need a rec center. We have kids that don't have enough time to play. We have adults that don't have enough time to do what they need. My time is up, so thank you very much.
Thank you. Peter?
So Mike, you actually stole my closing line. I was going to recommend the Mike Zarella Memorial Rec Center, but it might take us that long to get one. Good evening, everyone. And thank you to East Greenwich News, the Chamber of Commerce, Rotary, and New England Tech for helping us make this event possible. I appreciate the opportunity to share my background and my priorities with our voters. I've lived in East Greenwich with my family since 2013 when the Navy sent me here. And I think the town is unmatched anywhere in Rhode Island for the vibrant downtown, rural charm, and strong sense of community. I believe it's important to bring some new and diverse skill sets to the council, though. That will help ensure proper oversight of the $150 million school bond that you should have heard about during the previous forum. I'd like to use my extensive engineering background, project management experience, to help manage the most consequential municipal spending initiative of an entire generation. This project will impact every taxpayer in the community for decades. I was a submarine officer for over 21 years at duty stations in 7 states, and I finished up here in Rhode Island as the Deputy Commander of the Undersea Warfare Center in Newport. During my service, I helped manage a $1 million, actually $250 million submarine refueling project that came in on time and $14 million under budget as the first time ever for a refueling overhaul. As a skilled program manager, I've pretty extensive experience leading large teams of engineers, technicians, and subcontractors. And I also have an extensive understanding of fiscal accountability, and I've earned 2 graduate degrees in leadership management and government policy. I've also taught post-grad students from all over the world at the National Defense University in DC about leadership and organizational culture. I've been able to attend almost every town council meeting for more than 2 years, so I'm pretty up to date with what's going on. And I'm in my 2nd term as a member of the EG Affordable Housing Commission. So just want to say thank you again for everybody attending. Really look forward to hearing what the candidates have to say.
Thank you. And Kurt.
Okay, and to be as right on time as Peter was there. Hello, everyone. I'm Kurt Hamill. I moved to East Greenwich with my wife and son in 2019, and since then I have come to believe that East Greenwich is a nearly perfect place to live. It has that all-American, small-town coastal feel that's hard to come by these days. I grew up in Pennsylvania. I moved to New England when I was 21. My work has taken me to every corner of the country, all up and down the East Coast and even the Hawaiian Islands. What we have in East Greenwich is truly special, and I'm ecstatic. My family and I call it home and are taking root here. When the housing developments and school construction projects came onto my radar, I started to worry that not enough people cared or understood the scale of what was ahead of us over the next decade. I'm running for town council because I offer a different perspective that I feel will be useful as EG heads into a period of unprecedented development that it has not seen in generations. I'm a conservative candidate with a technical background. I have advanced degrees in engineering, and I've spent the last 20 years working on large-scale, multi-million-dollar projects of one capacity or another. I'm not an EG high school graduate. I'm not a long-time resident. I'm not a local government insider. But I think not being those things combined with my community engagement, engineering mind, and project management background will be useful in the years ahead. I hope I'm able to show you tonight that I'm a team player, thoughtful, honest in my intentions, and have EG's best interest in mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Kurt. Mike.
Good evening, everyone. For those of you who want to put a face to a name, I'm Mike Donegan. If you want to put a sign to a name, I'm also Mike Donegan. I won a bet tonight with Chris Lamondola. I bet him that if he could guess how many signs I had out 4 years ago, within 100, that I would donate $100 to his favorite charity. He was off by 200. But anyway, I'm currently your vice president of the town council. I've served there for 6 years. Prior to that, I was the chairman of the planning board. I was also on the planning board for 6 years. And before that, I was on the conservation commission. I've lived here 32 years. My wife is a physician in town. We have 5 so-called adult children who have all gone through the public school system. And, over these last 6 years, I really feel like we've created that environment that Kurt was referring to. I love our town. We believe in public service. Some of the priorities that I think we've really promoted and invested in over the last 6 years have been school support. Last year we funded the max allowed by law, and we have funded the schools more than any other council in a 6-year window, and pushing the bond.
Pull your mic up.
And we're pushing the bond, as you know. We've increased our programming and services for seniors. And one thing that's important, we're under tremendous pressure for growth here. We are aggressively managing that. We bought up 170 acres of open space. We encourage age-restricted housing. We lobby the General Assembly directly and through the League of Cities and Towns. And we litigate when necessary. We litigated the development on South Pierce, cut it in half. We litigated and defeated Med Recycler, and we're litigating right now with the developer on the 400-unit proposal on Division. We cut our taxes to the point where we're now just average. Don't say we're high anymore. Right now, we were the 7th highest before, now we're just average. The average house increased 61% during our 6 budgets, and the taxes increased $197 on that house. Thank you, and I look forward to answering other questions as we go forward.
Thank you. Karen.
Yes. Maya Angelou said, "I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel." This sentiment has guided my journey in public service. When I began, my vision was simple but bold: make East Greenwich the envy of Rhode Island. Every council decision I make comes back to the central question: how can we improve life for our residents, students, small businesses, seniors, and the broader community? My belief in open dialogue and responsiveness drives me to listen carefully to those who reach out to me. I strive to balance public safety with fairness in every action I take. Our partnership with the schools is arguably the most important work we do. I fully support public school education, along with the dedicated teachers, paraprofessionals, and support staff who make it possible. I firmly believe that any school budget should prioritize its people, its staff, who shape our students' future. As a special education teacher, I am especially passionate about ensuring that all children's needs are met. By strengthening our schools through our bond, we are reaffirming our community's commitment to valuing education for every child. EG is at an exciting juncture. Our recent accomplishments reflect our shared commitment to preserving and enhancing the town we love. We've safeguarded open space for future generations and are working on a dog park and expanding SWIFT to create more space for our seniors. All signs that we are truly listening to our needs of our residents. Thanks to sound fiscal policies, we ended the year with a $2 million surplus. This allowed us to tackle long overdue projects, yet fully fund the superintendent's budget, all while reducing the tax rate, a win for schools and our taxpayers. Like my fellow counselors, I am dedicated, hardworking, and principled. It would be an honor to serve another term, and I ask for your support in continuing this important work. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark?
Good evening, everyone. People have come up to me and said to me, "Are you running again?" And I said, "Yes, I am." What gives, Mark? Well, I'm running for re-election because I'm dedicated to public service, and I have a special interest and focus on local government. I've been involved in town government since I moved to East Greenwich 3 decades ago. Prior to my current role as town council president, I served on the land trust, the planning board, and I was elected as an East Greenwich fire commissioner. I've seen the impact that local government plays in the lives of our town residents. Town government directly impacts the look and feel of our community. The schools our children attend, the roads we drive on, the main street where we shop, the first responders who come to us in an emergency. Serving on the town council and local government is the way I can contribute to my community. I'm running for re-election because working with dedicated colleagues seated with me on the dais tonight, my colleagues on the council, and with our excellent town staff, I've developed a record of competence and accomplishment. On behalf of our community, I've worked to implement comprehensive budgeting with residential tax relief. I've helped support a thriving and dynamic Main Street. I've worked to secure grant funding of $10 million for our Main Street, public safety, senior services, and parks. I've helped put 170 acres of open space under protection of our land trust as a town councilor and 70 acres at Bosch Farm when I was on the land trust. And I was a leader in the work to pass our school construction bond. I'm running for re-election because there are exciting opportunities coming before the town in the next few years, and I ask for your vote so I can continue to be your vote and your voice in local government. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we start with the questions, and we're going to go to Mike Zarella first. This was also asked of the school committee. It appears that $150 million will not be enough to fulfill everything town residents want for school construction. What would you prioritize? You have 2 minutes.
I recently had two of my children both graduate, went through the entire school system. I also have a son in the high school. I have spoken to them. I have spoken to their friends. I have spoken to the people that have gone through these schools. And every person says the same thing to me. The high school needs the most amount of work. I am very, very fearful because of the cost overruns that the high school will get nothing or very little compared to the elementary schools. At the end of the day, the high school needs the new technology. They're the ones that are teaching more complicated issues. Everybody I speak to knows the high school needs work. This bond is so big that if we do nothing for the high school, there may be no money left for the future to fix it later on. That's a major problem. We have other things, like I said earlier, we have roads, DPW needs a new building. There is only so much money to go on around. In addition, I think teachers teach. They're the ones that educate children. Buildings don't educate buildings. We do need safe buildings, and we do need buildings that are up to code where a teacher feels comfortable in. But at the end of the day, we need to spend more money at the high school than we do at the elementary schools. I think that's a clear case from everything I've seen, because I've been in these schools. I've coached in all the schools. I've had all my children go through the schools. The high school needs work. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else want to weigh in on that? Peter?
So I would tend to agree with Mike. I think the folks I've talked to say that the high school is the biggest concern, and there's really not likely to be enough money left to do anything with the high school. Costs are going up. Everybody knows that. They see things at the store. They see construction projects go up and up and up. So where's the money going to come from when the new Frenchtown overruns its cost? It's probably going to wind up coming from the work that we were planning to do at the high school. So in fact, I had discussions offline with, I think that was the other one.
1:30 for the rebuttal.
It's a minute for the vote.
A minute for that.
Yeah. That was a zero, saying that
Oh,
I'm
I'm
out of
sorry.
time.
Yes.
Okay, got it. So 30 seconds from now, got it.
30 seconds. Sorry, we'll give you 35.
We'll reset the shot clock here. Okay, great. So I did have discussions with a couple of the town council members up here at the time of the voting, and they said, "Well, what do you think?" I'm like, "I think you went too low. I think it should have been 180 or 200, so that we could get something for the high school and have enough to be able to do some real work there." So I think that it got pushed through. The bond went through, and that's a good thing. I think that we could have done better because my concern is that I've heard that we won't be able to bond anything for 30 more years, which means that the high school will be nearly as old as Eldridge is now by the time we're able to build a new high school.
Thank you. Anybody else? Mark?
Very complicated question. I think that the goal is to complete this project for $150 million, but that may not be possible. And in that event, we have a choice, and we have some hard decisions to make. We have to either pay more or build less. And I think that we have assembled a very strong team to help us make that decision. We have a owner's project manager. We have a construction manager. We have a construction committee. We have a school committee who has shepherded this project for years. We have the town council finance director, financial analyst, and we have you, the public, because this decision will not be made overnight. There will be input from all of those experts from that team and also from members of the public. And then we'll look to see where we are, and we'll have to make those tough decisions. We may have to pay more, we may have to build less, but we will finish this project and we'll meet the needs that we set out when this project got off the ground all the way back in 2019. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right, we'll move to our next question. That's to Peter. East Greenwich has made significant strides toward reaching the state mandated goal of 10% affordable housing. But even with the new units that will be added in the next year, we will still be around 3 percentage points off. What can EG do to reach that goal?
I think that's a great question. And I'm glad to see that we've got supporters of the Affordable Housing Commission here in the audience. As I said, I've been on that commission now for 2 terms, and I think it's doing a lot of really good work. When I started, we were around 5.5%. Right now, we're close to 6.5%, maybe a touch over. And the development on Frenchtown Road, which is 100% affordable housing, it's going to be 63 units. That's going to get us about another 1% or so. So we've made pretty significant strides in the last couple of years. I think that the biggest things that we can do are to continue to work with local builders, work with the state, and find ways to encourage developers to come in and build smart, affordable housing developments that get us close to that 10%, regain some autonomy at the town level where we're not getting sued by developers through Superior Court, formerly SHAB. And I think that it's important to shoot for that goal of as many developments at 100% as we can so that we can get there quicker and provide housing for folks who need it. I think that having things out on the far side of town, like where the 410 unit development is going to be for out on Division, that's not all affordable, but you know, if you put something out there, folks need a car. And if you're someone who needs to live in an affordable house, you may not be able to afford a car to be able to get to work and get to groceries and things like that. Where we are building on Frenchtown, it's much more accessible. So we need to look at all of those things going together to make sure that these units are not only affordable, but also useful and convenient for the people that are going to be living there.
Would anybody else like to comment on that one? Renu.
Actually, I applaud Mr. Rogers for his work on the Affordable Housing Commission. I think we are at 6.57%, and we have about 359 affordable units. I would say, as someone who's affected by the Division Road project, one of the things that's most concerning to me with the state mandate is the setbacks. One of the biggest issues I hear from my neighbors is that it is a clear-cut lot. Most of our developers clear-cut the lot. We don't. In our area of East Greenwich, people would like to see the trees. I'd like to preserve as much of, I think to Mike's point, to the trees as possible. And the other part is that it would be great if we had more of a 50-50 split between market rate and affordable rate. We would hit our mandate faster. The way it is right now, there's always going to be more market rate, so it's always a catch up, and we're not able to catch up currently the way it is. I actually think that we do need affordable housing in a really significant way. Our median house price is somewhere around $770,000. It's quite high. I mean, you are not able to afford it if you are a young person. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, Kurt first and then Mike.
Renu and Peter were pretty thorough. But I think what I could add is, as a trained problem solver, you know, this was posed as one question, but in my head, I separated it in sort of 3 bins, and one is affordable housing, you know, check plus on affordable housing. The other is the use of the affordable housing laws, which are being used to kind of circumvent planning. And the third is the density, the increased population that'll cause. So again, as a trained problem solver, sometimes complex things, it helps to break them up and attack each thing with its own solution. That would be what I would add to this, is to look at it as 3 things, not just one.
Thank you. Mike.
So these things come in waves, right? Real estate development is not steady. It's huge explosions and you go to sleep for 10 years. And so I saw this on the planning board. The affordable housing statute allows the developer to ignore local zoning, historic districts, anything else, and come in, and on 1 acre, you could propose a 100-story tower and with 100 units, and you haven't had a way to plan it. Statewide planning has us plan our schools, our fire department, our police departments, based upon a build-out projection, which assumes your local zoning applies to 100 acres, might be 100 lots minus 10%. But if it's really 1,000 units, we don't know how to build locate our fire departments, how to plan our schools. If it drops all at once like development does, we're ill prepared in our schools and we don't have the lead time to even do it. So what we have to do is try to manage that. That's negotiating with the developers. Sometimes it's litigating. It's the only way the council ever has a voice with them. It's at the planning board, and the only way we have is in litigation. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right, we'll move to the next question. That's for Kurt, correct? Yes. The current town council is made up of 5 individuals who have served together since 2018. Are you concerned about insularity at this point?
Well, the way I look at things, I actually don't have any. I've watched. Oh,
Sorry.
Sorry about that.
Just keep talking in.
The way I see it is that the town manager has a bunch of levers before him that he uses on a daily basis, and knobs and levers that he turns, and one of the purposes of the council is to make him answer for those. He turns a knob, and if the knob is too far based on what constituents want or whatever, he has to answer for that, or he turns it back. Right now, I think the current town council's center of gravity is a lot around the law and the town hall administration levers. And I would certainly look to bring a new perspective to that. My background's much different, and there's lots of other problems that need solved.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to weigh in on that question? Karen?
Yes.
1 minute.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, there's been some discussion about balance, and I don't quite know what that means. Balance, by balance, do you mean that we should put on Republicans because we don't have any Republicans? Because I'm not sure that that's what democracy means. We are a diverse council. We have 2 people of the Jewish faith. We have 2 women, so and 1 person of color. So that is, I think, diversity as I see it. We have had arguments, discussions, disagreements. Plus, we listen to every single person that comes before us. There has been nobody that's running that has ever said anything critical of us, that has ever brought anything to our attention that we haven't listened. I've had a 2.5-hour conversation with one of the people running previously. We had a wonderful lunch together, and I would listen to any Republican, anytime, any day. So, thank you.
Anyone else? Nope. Okay. Then the next question goes to Mike Donegan. Mike, the lease for Pat's Pasture at Briggs Bosch Farm lapsed more than a year ago, and there is still no resolution. The Briggs Bosch property is meant to be enjoyed by residents, but also required to remain in part a working farm. How can the town council get this situation resolved?
Sure. So you may know that when we look at acquisition or sale of property, that has to take place in executive session. And so what's been going on is that we have the opportunity next door to acquire 40 acres of land that could be integrated with Bosch Farm, but we couldn't discuss it until it was actually a signed deal, terms were negotiated, and the developer who has a permit to put solar panels next door already needs a line to be buried to go along the existing road at Bosch Farm. And so for that, we're going to get a couple $100,000 cash. We're going to get annually tens of thousands of dollars that will be used for Bosch Farm. And then at the end of the lease, we own the land free and clear to add to Bosch Farm. So it's a win all the way around. We had the developer, the proposed line that's going to go in, went and met with Pat on site. We talked about it. We couldn't do that until we actually had a deal. And so now we've talked about it. I think they're excited that this is going to be a lot of resources to help enhance the farm there, public access, trails in the back. All of that is a win-win because that land came with obligation, financial obligation. And so now we're going to have resources to actually enhance it and make it what the vision was from the beginning. So I think we're on it. That's why it's been that way. We didn't want to sign a new lease until we had that all worked out. And so fortunately it is. And we hope to have all that worked out in the coming weeks as they work through their wetlands approval and those kinds of things. But that's a home run for East Greenwich and Pat's Pastures.
Would anyone else like to weigh in? All right, then the next question goes to Karen. Karen, there is inherent tension between the town council, which controls the purse strings, and the school committee, which has its own legislative authority but relies on the town council to approve its budget. How can the two bodies work together in an effective way?
First of all, I think we actually do work very well together.
A little more into the
I think we do work well together, especially since this year we gave them, awarded them the full ask of the superintendent's budget. But understand something, the school has a singular purpose to take care and get the most money that they possibly can for the schools. I understand that. I accept that. I don't disagree with that, especially being a teacher. However, the town has a different focus. We have to serve everybody. So we have to make sometimes hard choices and balance things. And that's what we look for. But we champion the bond. We were fully supportive of the bond. We campaigned for it. We went out to meetings for it. So we support the schools. We want the schools to be the best they can be. So yes, we sometimes disagree, but we're all friends at the end. Thank you.
Anyone else? Mark?
Yeah, I have, it came up in the last session that there's animosity between the schools and the town council. I don't see it that way. The school, I have tremendous respect for the people on the school committee. They are at the center of where many of the social issues in society are playing out right now. It's a difficult job. But the town is, the system between the town council and the school committee is not ideal. The town allocates the money to the schools but can't control how it's spent. The schools receive the money and they have programs that they have to support, but they can't generate revenue. So there's an inherent tension between them. But as far as the schools go, I support the school bond 100%. I support the school mission statement, all means all, and their strategic plan 100%. And I support their mission to protect the physical and social emotional health of the students in East Greenwich.
Thank you, Mark. Now we are on to Mark, actually, right? Your question, and you have 2 minutes to answer. Considering East Greenwich's coastal location, how do you plan to prioritize environmental conservation efforts and address potential issues related to climate change and sea level rise?
Well, the town is very concerned about its environmental footprint. We've been involved in trying to address that as much as possible. And I think there's a number of areas where we've taken that seriously. One is with our wastewater treatment facility. We've invested in the wastewater treatment facility to improve the emissions into East Greenwich Cove. We've used recent grant funding that we have down at the waterfront to mitigate the effects of climate change on our shoreline along the cove and to protect the wastewater facilities in the event of rising sea levels. We've also going to be moving some of the fuel tanks that are down at the waterfront away from that area to a safer place for storage. We've also been dedicated to improving our green footprint by converting our street lights to LED lights. We are involved in an energy aggregation program where we'll be cooperating with other communities to buy solar power from a solar generation site in Coventry, which will come online sometime next year. Our school building program, our new schools will be LEED certified and be much more energy efficient. We've also passed ordinances allowing solar panels on roofs of businesses and residences with less obstacles. We've also passed the plastic bag ban way back when. So we take environmental impact seriously, and we're spending our time, effort, money, and we've received grant money to respond to those challenges.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to respond? Okay, then we go to Renew. Renew, there has been significant turnover among town department heads in recent years. Is this a concern for the next town council?
I think this is something that I think we need to understand. Municipal employers are paid about 17% less than private employees, and there is a need for highly qualified professional people. And they are in demand across the state. They're also in demand across Vermont and Massachusetts. If you look at Governing Magazine or some of the other professional groups, there is no lack of people in towns that need professional staff. And it is hard. I mean, in the past, East Greenwich may not have always required their employees to have professional standards. Now we do. And I think the other part to this is that we need to understand that town employees are oftentimes the first bastion where you have your first connection to the town. For instance, your first connection might be with either a police officer or someone in the DPW office. And they take a lot of abuse. And I'm not sure that people really understand how hard it is to be a police officer in this town or how hard it is to be a clerk in this town. We expect a lot from them, and sometimes it is a hard job for them. But I do think that, yes, we do have a high turnover. We're not alone in that. I think other towns have also faced the same issues. And I am not, I can't speak to personal issues because we're not that type of board. We're just advisory. But I know that, just from reading and from other experiences, that this is unfortunately part of what's to be expected. You have a town and you have people who want more from it.
Would anyone else like to respond to that question? Mike Zarella,
Yes.
1 minute.
The question is not who's leaving. The question is who's coming in. And you look at the people who have come into this town, they're tremendous. I don't only have a minute. I'm going to talk about Andy Wade. He came into this town. He's improved every program. He's got grants for us. We're redoing the Eldridge Field. We're putting new basketball courts over at Eldridge. You have the pickleball courts that he did over the old town hall. I can't think of it all of a sudden. What we're doing is we're bringing in the best people and we're getting stuff for it. That's the most important. So it's not who's leaving, it's who's coming in and what they're doing. My daughter for years has taught at the camp every summer. She told me since Andy Wade came in, it's been run so much better than it's ever run before. So I think you've got to look where we're going forward. And we're going forward with great people who are running this town very well. And Andy Wade, the amount of money he's got in grants and the amount of projects he's done is just amazing. So that's why I think we should be looking at it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Kurt.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with, I really agree with what Mike just said. There's some really great staff. One of the things I'm really good at in my job is knowledge management. So these people are great, but eventually they leave. Right? And time is relentless. Eventually you have to retire. We're a 300 and almost 350-year-old community. You know, we have to look way out. So I am super good at putting things together and in a format that can kind of be handed off to the next guy, that encapsulates and embodies all that good work that happened before you, so the next guy can pick it up and there's some stability. I do that all the time, and that is all I have to say on that, but I agree, Mike.
Thank you. Was that Mike Donegan? Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I want to put a little sharper point on this. So we've had people leave because they went home when their friend became mayor. We've had people leave because they were commuting an hour, and when they left, they were crying, and they wanted to go home where they didn't have to commute an hour with children. We had people leave because somebody went and became the head of the faculty senate at URI. They weren't leaving to go to other towns to do this in a lot of instances. But let's be clear. We changed the culture here for our department heads and what we're doing. We did it because we demand different things. When we interview department heads, we're being able to do the job is the ante. The next question is, how much grant money have you generated cash in the door in the last 5 years? Prove it. And that's what we get now. Andy Wade is worth millions to us, okay? Our fire chief. You run down the list, what we get from our police chief. We change the culture so we don't have to hit you with taxes. And that's different. Not everybody's up for that, and not everybody's capable, but we're changing the culture, making it more professional to help. Thank you.
Anybody else? Are we done? Okay. Mike Zarella. Traffic is getting worse in East Greenwich. How do you plan to address traffic flow and transportation challenges in town?
Unfortunately, there's only so much we can do. A lot of the reason the traffic is getting bad is because of all the building off Division Road in Coventry. They've put a ton of buildings over there. Also, you have all the new buildings also on Division Road coming up. Traffic is an issue. It's been an issue for a while. I do believe at some point there's a plan to build the highway connect Route 95 with Route 4. Not positive when that's going to be done, but I think that would clear up a lot of the traffic in Division. There's really only so much we could do. The only thing we really could do is limit the amount of houses that are being built, and I know we're trying to do that as hard as we can. The problem is, right now, the way the law is with this administration is you basically build anything, any place, anytime, anywhere. And all that does is clog up our system. They don't listen to the studies that we've had to show that all these 400 units are going to add so much traffic to our town. Go drive down Division, go look at Coventry, how many buildings they added over there, and how many of those people come this way and have to go through East Greenwich. I think we need to look to the state for money and solutions. There's only so much we could do as a community, especially when the law is set up so that we really have no more control of what can be built and where it can be built. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else want to weigh in? Renew.
So I have a personal connection to this. I live on a state road, so I live on Division. Division is not just a state road for East Greenwich, it's a state road for Coventry, for West Warwick, for West Greenwich. We get a lot of traffic. Route 2 is a state road. Frenchtown is a state road. Main Street is a state road. I think there's like one or two other. We also have the connection between, 2 and 95 and 4. I have APRA brought up to get those traffic numbers because the state shouldn't be holding those numbers back. Other states give those out, and I have lost twice now at the APRA. I think RIPTA should beef up its offerings. We talk about being a green state. Part of that is being able to have a bike lane, to have more busing in this town. I can tell you that I see people walking on Division. It's horrifying to me. I can also tell you that we have very little control over what the state does on those roads, and they don't always give us adequate notification. So as far as state roads go, I am extremely concerned about the traffic.
Thank you. Anyone else? And I think next question is to Peter. Peter, unlike In many Rhode Island communities, it is the town council that is the ultimate manager of the $150 million school construction project. How can you make sure on the town council that the school committee remains actively involved?
So I think that probably the best way to keep the school committee involved in the bond and the construction project is to talk to them. And, you know, there has been, I won't say animosity because I think that is too strong, but there has been some headbutting between the two bodies to the point where the school superintendent was starting legal proceedings against the town council. And that, to me, indicates that there is a lack of communication in some form or fashion. I don't want to say that it was because of one side or the other, but the communication was lacking. So I think that for whatever reason, I heard during the school committee portion of this forum that at least one of the members was adamant that they are the only ones that should be allowed to have any say whatsoever, paraphrasing, and that the town council should stay out of it, cut the check and stay out of it. And I don't think that's right, because the town council is the fiscally body that is responsible. So I think there has to be communication. I think that, you know, at the end of the day, they are education buildings that need to be driven by education needs, but they are a construction project. And they need to be managed as a construction project. That's part of what I do for a living. I manage the construction and testing of nuclear submarines. At about $2 billion a pop. You know, it's not a small undertaking. So I think that, you know, having folks with that sort of experience at this juncture of the town is helpful. So again, bring a new skill set to the town, managing those sorts of relationships and communication. And also very important to keep the town informed of what's going on every step along the way.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to chime in? Karen, yes, this is your second response.
Yes, thank you. I'm not sure I agree with your premise, because there's a huge group of people who are working on the project. School people, town council, our finance director, our town manager, and 2 people from the community that were vetted and are extremely qualified. They work on school projects. That's their job, and they live in East Greenwich. So what could be better? We've had at least 2 or 3 open meetings. I've attended both of them. I'm not on the school construction committee, but I attended all the meetings. It couldn't be more open and transparent, and everybody's talked about what they want. And going forward, we're going to continue to do the same. The conversations are yet to come to determine exactly what we're going to do, but both bodies are working together, and that's the way it's going to stay.
Anyone else? If not, the next question goes to Kurt. Kurt, North Kingstown just celebrated their 350th anniversary, and East Greenwich will be doing so in 2027. What can the town council do to prepare for East Greenwich's own momentous 350th?
One thing I'd like to do is I would like to make a time capsule. I think that would be super cool. As far as the real answer, that's a little bit of a silly answer that I wanted to lead off with, but I'm a large advocate of making a plan and sticking to the plan. So if we don't have a plan, we should get one. I'm not on the council. I'm not privy to absolutely everything that goes on. But that would be my answer is if there isn't a plan, we should definitely have one. We should stick to it because that helps us stick to budgets. And in that plan, we should have a time capsule.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. The next question goes to Mike Donegan. Mike, it's been almost 10 months since the untimely death of Bob Hodling. That position remains unfilled. How can the town make sure that all that Bob built over his many decades of service to the town is not lost?
Sure. So many people in this room know that Bob and I were very good personal friends outside of our town business. And Bob was a unicorn. And the last year and a half, I've been working with him and Andy to say, look, nobody does what you do. You're a unicorn who roams around, but is everywhere. You work dawn to dusk all the time, and you do great work. And I get that it has to happen in the shadows. Kids who have to consult with you don't want to go into the police station to do it. You know, you need to meet them where they are. And I said, but if you don't write it down, when you're done, we don't have a plan. We don't have, because you're a free-range chicken on this. So he started to do that. Andy and Bob, two people whose personalities you would imagine are completely divergent, ended up attached at the hip. During COVID, they're wandering around doing, their videos and putting them out. They're all over the kids and the community. And our seniors needed a lot of help too, and they were both there. So we paid for Bob in the schools, and the schools paid as well. We shared him. And we already have, Andy just did it, I think, 2 meetings ago, talked about the plan who we're looking at to replace some of what Bob did. We're doing it, but it is a challenge. There isn't going to be another one of those guys. And we may have to split it up into 2 different people. We may have the schools go one way and the town another way. I don't know. But in the end, we're on it. It's a priority of ours. By the way, we're the first council that made Bob Hodling, our drug counselor, a cabinet position. He reported directly to Andy. He wasn't under Parks and Rec like he used to be. So we respect that, and we respect the work he did. We value it, and that's a huge priority for us. But finding that person or people is a challenge. We're on it, and we expect to bring something forward in that regard probably in the next couple of months.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to chime in on that one? If not, Karen, how can the town help struggling residents beyond what religious organizations are able to provide?
Okay, let's see. I'll talk a little bit about how we've reduced the taxes. We were 7th when we first started. We are 14th, and the difference between the 14th and the 19th is very close. So we provide services, we provide garbage support, we support a bond, we used our ARPA money, we have grants, we have the split tax rate, so not all the money comes from the residents. For our seniors, we are adding about 1,200 square feet to Swift, and that will primarily be for the seniors. We provide, the police have done extra patrols for speeding. So I think we try to improve the lives for everybody, and we understand that not everybody can pay the taxes. So I think we've given, a lot of concern to that and have done an excellent job with that. We also have an excellent senior staff. If anybody ever goes to Swift Gym, we provide lunch every single day for $3. And we have wonderful programs, as somebody's mentioned Andy Wade. He does the most outstanding job in town. And he, in addition to the grant money, every single time I contact him with a question or somebody needs some help, he and the 2 Andys are really on it. So I think we are doing a pretty good job in all that. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Anybody else want to respond to that question? Okay, Peter, thank you.
So I don't disagree with anything that Councilor Kornthal said. I think that those things are true for the most part. I think that we do need to be a little bit careful about the language we use when we talk about taxes. I agree the tax rate is significantly lower than it was a year ago, but that's possible because of the significant increase in home valuations, which for some folks did not reduce their taxes. In fact, their taxes went up When your house price nearly doubles, but your tax rate only comes down by a third, the math says that your taxes are going to go up. So the dollar figure paid in taxes does go up. I think some of the things that we can do are, I agree that we need more housing for seniors to allow folks who have family in town and have lived here and raised a family to be able to stay in town affordably. And I think that things like tax credits for seniors and veterans could be improved. We're not quite as high as some of the other towns in the state, and I think we could get there.
Thank you. Anyone else? Everybody still has extra answers, just so you know. Then we go to Mark at the end over there. Mark, the number of liquor licenses in town has ballooned in the past 15 years. Does that matter?
It definitely matters. The Main Street has really changed. The character of Main Street has changed quite a bit. A lot of the vendors have been replaced by restaurants. And so we have changes in the way the town runs based on that type of business. Many businesses which closed at 5 o'clock are now open till 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. So parking has become an issue. Vendors are using the valet parking, and that has also become an issue. So the question is balancing the amenities of the restaurants and encouraging them to come into town versus some of the impact that the changing business models have on Main Street. So that's something that we're going to be looking at. One opportunity that we have to do that is through the comprehensive community plan, which we're going to be working on early in the new year. The comprehensive community plan addresses land use in town, and it also addresses the impact of different businesses on Main Street. And we have the opportunity to influence the number of businesses, the type of businesses. The council made sure that the ordinance that we have in place is very strong in the event that we want to limit the cap on licenses. So I think you'll see a discussion. There'll be a lot of community input on what we want to see on Main Street, what we want to encourage on Main Street, the type of businesses in our comprehensive community plan. And we'll be soliciting public input from vendors, and see what policy would be best for the town going forward.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to chime in on liquor licenses? Mike Zarella.
I don't see an issue with having more liquor licenses as long as they're going to responsible people who run restaurants. Right now, part of the reason our taxes are lower is because we're getting a lot of money from the businesses, because businesses are thriving in East Greenwich. When I mean they're thriving, they're thriving. 20 years ago, people like, oh, let's go to Federal Hill out for dinner tonight. They don't say that anymore. They say, let's go to East Greenwich for dinner. And you know what? A lot of those restaurants that were on Federal Hill are now in East Greenwich. We're doing great. And we need to have a Main Street and other areas that are thriving. And if we have to give out extra liquor license, so if somebody wants to open up a restaurant, I have no problems with that. The question is, are we giving to responsible people? Because all you need is one or two bad actors, and that's worse than all the other liquor licenses combined. So long as they're going to be people that play by the rules, don't serve minors, don't overserve people, I have no issues with more liquor licenses, because I think that's what's making this town great. Thank you very much.
Renu.
So I'm going to disagree with Mr. Sorella, as we often do. I actually do think there should be a cap on liquor licenses, and one of the reasons is you want a good mix of businesses in town. We do have a lot of restaurants, and I think, went from 32, I think we're around 37. But I also think that you need to have, people like to walk. They would like to walk to a food store. They would like to walk to more amenities, like the coffee shop and things. I think if we're too heavy on the restaurant bar side, and we have become a bar destination, not just a restaurant destination. I actually have no issue if there were more liquor licenses out of the main Hill and Harbor area, but that's sort of a slower process. And I think one of our parking issues happens to be because of the liquor license sort of issue that we have. But I would like to see more of a mix, and I would like to see more of that happening. So thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else? I think, is this the final question? I think it is, to Renew. How can the town council make the waterfront a more integral part of the town?
So we just completed our waterfront study, and that's actually, it's online. You can actually see it online. Part of the waterfront study with the Cove Commission is something that as we get grant money, we can do that. We can do those bits and pieces as money becomes available. We needed the study to actually apply for the grants, and that's why we did that. I think the waterfront is a very integral part of our town currently because, I mean, a lot of people come during the summer just to sit on the waterfront, at the waterfront restaurants. I think part of it is that, you know, maybe you're trying to balance the residents in the harbor area along with the patrons of the harbor area. And I think that sometimes is a tricky balance, particularly for the summer crowds. I think it can be harder. But as far as bringing it more to the town, I'm not sure that I understand the question. I think we are trying to do more stuff on the waterfront. We'd like to do a walkway. I mean, that was part of the waterfront side, to do a walkway across, make sure that we get our easements so that we can access, everybody can access the water. Some of them had been blocked over the decades. And also to resiliency of the waterfront. There is now, with the climate change situation, a lot of those houses or areas flood a lot. And that's something that we hadn't seen in the past. But the waterfront, I personally believe it is a big draw for us currently. I think it is part of the larger town issue where we need to balance what's happening in the town, particularly during the summer with our summer crowds, with also our parking issues. And, you know, that to me is part of that study, which is online and you can read it. And as we get money, we will fund it. Thanks.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to address that? Karen?
Yes, we were very fortunate working with our federal partners. We got about $1 million to work on the waterfront. And we did a study. Many of us were out there in the freezing cold looking at various things. And so that is in the process. Permitting is taking place. That is going to be the difficult decision. Andy and I just had a discussion about this today. CRMC has to approve things. DEM has to approve things. That permitting is going to take a long time. But meanwhile, so we're hoping maybe 2025. The design we're going to hope to do over the winter. We're talking about putting a dog park over there. We're talking about doing walkways, at least one, maybe two shelters over there. In the second phase, maybe pathways behind the transfer station, walkways. So this is all the things that we're doing. But what I've learned in 6 years, government works slowly. And you have to do, you know, but we're going to get it done. Thanks.
Mark?
I think that the waterfront will be integrated into town over the next couple of years, in some part because of the foresight of the council. When this council first came into office, we recognized that the waterfront was an underutilized and underrecognized asset that the town had. So we went to design a waterfront study. COVID slowed that down, but the waterfront study did come out in time for applications for grant funding. So we had a study which was all set already. When the grant was issued, we were in a perfect position to take advantage of it. And now we have $1 million to begin the first phase of a multi-phase project to make our waterfront really shine. So I think it just shows that if you're prepared, you can really take advantage of the grant funding and you can get a jump start. And I think you'll see things going on the waterfront probably in the next year.
Thank you. Anybody else? If not, we're going to move to closing statements. It is 8:35, so if you really feel like you need to go to 90, what do you guys think? Can you keep it to 60? Okay, we're going to keep it to 60. One thing I haven't done is give a shout out to readers for submitting these questions. We needed that, and we really are appreciative of everybody who submitted questions. If if we haven't covered something that you still want to hear about, please email editor@eastgreenwichnews.com and we'll try to cover that. So again, thank you. And closing statements start with Peter.
So thank you again to everybody involved in putting this very meaningful opportunity together to discuss the challenges that are facing the town. And I appreciate each of the community members who are here watching this forum. There's more here than there usually are at town council meetings. And I know I can say that for sure. And the folks online that are also watching. And I also appreciate each candidate up here. The fact that you've got folks up here who are willing to take their time to serve the community, I think is very important. But I also think it's important to have a diversity of viewpoints, a diversity of experience and background, in addition to the other elements of diversity that were mentioned earlier. I think that's essential to building trust with the school or with the town regarding things like the school construction initiatives. And it also offers assurance to everybody in town that there's leaders who take into consideration long-term management, or long-term impacts of the choices we make today. My training experience, I think, will be essential in helping oversee some of these projects. Respectfully ask for your support on Election Day. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Kurt.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. I am running for town council because I believe East Greenwich needs to think strategically while it handles today's challenges. My technical background, experiencing managing large projects, give me a unique ability to help guide our town through this critical period of development. I may not have deep roots here, but EG is where my family and I have taken root, and I care deeply about the future of this community, and I'm committed to preserving the qualities that make EG special. I'm ready to listen, collaborate, and work hard. I ask for your support. I look forward to earning your trust.
Thank you. Mike Donegan.
So I'm glad that what we're hearing now is not diversity of party, right? They're talking about their experience, which I think is absolutely something you should consider. And this sounds a lot more like the vice presidential debate than the presidential debate, which I like. So I think what I would like you to take away from this is experience matters. Knowing how to do municipal finance. When we lose almost $800,000 in school funding, we can pick up the phone and call the head of the House Finance Committee, right, in the subcommittee on education and get it back. When we want to pass a law that was instrumental to getting our taxes shifted so that the big corporations support us, not the other way around, which is what the major problem was in our tax structure. You have to be able to write a law, go lobby for it, get it done. I did that. When it comes to how our bonds work, you have to have expertise and experience in negotiating union contracts. We've done that. I think experience matters. Thank you.
Thank you. Karen.
Yes, I just wanted to mention one thing that didn't come up. We did a road analysis. Beta Company came in and did a road analysis of every single road in East Greenwich. Eventually, that's going to be online. You can go see where your road is and where it fits in the queue when we're going to fix it. I think a lot of people are probably interested in that. My closing. My top priority is improving the lives of our residents. When someone sends me an email, and they do, my focus is helping them with the issue. Generally speaking, I don't even know who they are. I certainly don't ask their party affiliation. My goal is to help them solve their problem. The same goes for appointments to boards and commissions. What matters is their desire to serve our community. I don't work in a vacuum. We have excellent town officials, and my fellow councilors are intelligent and hardworking. I hope you will continue to support me and my fellow councilors as we continue to do the important work that we've started. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mark.
Well, I want to thank the organizers and sponsors of tonight's event, East Greenwich News, the East Greenwich Chamber, and the Rotary Club. I continue to enjoy the quality of life that East Greenwich provides. It's a great town. And if reelected, I'm excited to be involved in some of the major projects and opportunities in front of us that will benefit our community for years to come. The 5 members of this East Greenwich Town Council are seeking their reelection for our 4th consecutive term serving together. This gives our town remarkable experience and stability in local government, which is very unusual to see in our state. I look forward to using input from you, our town residents, and this council's collective knowledge and skills to deliver open and effective town government, fiscal responsibility, excellence in education, and a strong sense of community. I ask for your vote when you cast your ballot. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Renew.
Sorry, it's a little convoluted here. I just want to say thank you very much for the questions tonight. I've had honor of serving as your town councilor, and it is a privilege that I would not have changed. I have met and become friends with such an awesome group of residents over the years. I do not think of being a town councilor as a right. I have tried to address as many concerns as I receive, either by email or by phone, to the best of my ability. If someone contacts me regarding any issue, I am more than happy to discuss. Being a town councilor is not always easy. We've had to make decisions that affect our neighbors and friends. However, this council has always allowed for comment even when it is not on the agenda. I would like to say that we do not have a political bias. It would be unethical, probably illegal, if we were had a political bias in any way, shape, or form. I never ask. I have never been asked about that. I would like to say I've reached out to our state reps and senator regarding RIPTA and our state roads, and I have also reached out to them regarding affordable housing. Thank you, and I would hope you would vote for me, Mike, and Mark, and Karen again. Thanks.
Thank you, Renew. Last but not least, Michael Zarella.
Thank you. Ronald Reagan in 1980 asked the question, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? And I want to know, is East Greenwich better off now than when we took over 6 years ago? The answer is completely yes. The town is thriving. We're doing well. The one thing that we need to do, though, is to make sure that we stay a town. We don't want to become a city because we're overrun with too much development. Like I say, in every debate since I started doing this, I always think of this town as a Norman Rockwell picture. And that's how I want to think about it. I don't want to be Warwick. I don't want to be Route 2. It's very important that whoever gets elected, make sure that we could do what we can to make sure that the building of this town does not get overrun, where there are no longer any more farms or open space or there are no trees. That would absolutely ruin the community. It will not be the same community. My goal is to preserve this town the way it is and the way it's been for many years. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike, and thank you to all 7 candidates for participating tonight. That pretty much wraps it up. So, good night. I couldn't believe well, just because that's how you. Yeah. All right. There's some way.